the 22nd of May, 2026, Friday morning. A reading from the Common Buddhist Text, Guidance and Insight from the Buddha. Chief editor of this compilation is Maha Dr. Dhamma Kosachan. We are in Chapter 7 on Ethics. We previously covered the perspective from the Theravada tradition, Mahayana tradition. We are currently in the Vajrayana tradition. We left off on Chapter 7 on ethics from the perfection of vigor. Vigor in practicing the Dhamma, even though you might feel inclined to practice the Dhamma. If you keep it off until tomorrow and tomorrow, you will run out of your human life. You must stop wasting your whole life while still wanting to practice the Dharma. The famous Padma-Karpo master has said, "This human life, like an animal being led to the slaughterhouse, with each passing moment is getting closer and closer to death. If you put off till tomorrow, what could be done today? Your lamentations on your deathbed will be of no avail. Therefore, do not waste another moment deferring Dhamma practice, just like an intelligent man who has found a snake on his lap, or like a maiden whose hair has caught fire. Immediately get rid of the worldly activities and start practicing the Dharma. Straight away, unless you do that, you will be oppressed by never-ending worldly activities, following one another like ripples of water, and at the time to practice the Dharma will never arrive. That time will only come when you make up your mind to get rid of all worldly preoccupations. As the all-knowing Longchen Ramjam has said, worldly activities never stop until we die, but when we are dropped by naturally stop, as well as activities are like children's games. As long as they are continued, they do not end, but they are finished as soon as we leave them. So once you have developed a wish to practice the Dharma, draw inspiration from the thought of impermanence and start practicing it immediately without falling under the power of laziness or procrastination, even for an instant. This is what's called vigor in practicing the Dharma. This is cited from the words of my perfect teacher, page 399 to 400. Finally, we move to Chapter 8, the perspective of meditation from the Theravada tradition. The purpose of meditation. While ethical action restrains external expressions of mental defilements, meditation weakens and with wisdom ultimately overcomes the mental impurities rooted in craving and spiritual ignorance that lead to any such actions, as well as to future rebirths with all their conditioned sufferings. The relation of meditation is to overall path, can be seen in the passages from the Theravada traditions. The nature of the mind. These verses highlighted the fickle nature of the mind, its need for training, and how this will bring happiness. Here, Mara, or the deadly one, is a tempered deity that is seen to embody both death and sensual desire, which leads to rebirth and re-death, as well as Mara, illusion, being the term for the defilements. The realm of illusion is also anything subject to impermanence and hence the death of the self, or the senses, or the mind. Just as the arrow maker straightens an arrow shaft, Likewise, the wise person straightens the mind. So fickle, unsteady, so difficult to guard, and so difficult to restrain. As a fish born in water casts on land, throbs and quivers, likewise the mind gets agitated. Therefore, one ought to abandon the realm of illusion. Taming the mind that is difficult to control, that alters fast and that falls upon whatever it likes, is commendable. A tame mind brings happiness. Let the wise person guard the mind, so difficult to discern, extremely subtle, falling upon whatever it likes. A guarded mind brings happiness. Those who restrain the mind that travels afar, that wanders alone, that is devoid of the body, lying within the cave of the heart, are liberated from the bonds of illusion. Wisdom never comes to fulfillment in one whose mind is not steadfast, who knows not the good Dhamma, and whose faith wavers. There is no fear for the wakeful ones, whose mind does not tend towards faults and is unagitated, and who has gone beyond both karmically beneficial and karmically harmful actions, realizing that this body is a fruitile as a clay pot, and fortifying this mind as a city. One should combat illusion with weapons of wisdom. One should guard what has been conquered and remain unattached. Before long, for sure, this body will lie upon the earth, cast away, being rid of consciousness like a useless log. Whatever harm an enemy may do to an enemy, or a hater to a hater, an ill-directed mind may inflict greater harm on a person. Neither mother nor father nor any other relative can do one greater good than a well-directed mind. This is cited from the Chitta Vagga Dhammapada 33 through 43. The need to train the mind. This passage emphasizes how harmful the mind can be when unwholesome tendencies in it are left unrestrained, yet how beneficial it is when cultivated by meditative training. Bhikkhu monks do not observe anything else that is so immensely conducive to harm as an undeveloped, uncultivated mind. An undeveloped, uncultivated mind is immensely conducive to harm. Bhikkhu monks, I do not observe anything else that is so immensely conducive to benefit as a developed, cultivated mind. A developed, cultivated mind is immensely conducive to benefit. Bhikkhu monks, I do not observe anything else that is so immensely conducive to harm as an uncontrolled, unprotected, unrestrained, untamed mind. Bhikkhu monks, I do not observe anything else that is so immensely conducive to benefit as a controlled, protected, restrained, tamed mind. This passage is cited from the Akamaniya Vagga, Sutras 9 through 10, Antanta Vagga, Sutra 9 through 10, Anguttara Nikaya, Volume 1, 6 through 7. The mind's negative underlying tendencies must also bring potential. The innocent mind is not completely pure. This passage shows that even the mind of a baby, prior to having any negative mental states, has the latent underlying tendencies to later develop these. Being born a human is a good rebirth and is the product of good past actions. But unenlightened beings are still fettered by various tendencies that keep them within the rounds of rebirth and of their dukkha, pains. A young, tender baby lying on his back does not even have an idea of personality. So how could he view on personality arise in him? Yet the underlying tendency to view on personality lies latent in him. A young, tender baby lying on his back does not even have the idea of mental states. How could the facilitating doubt about wholesome and unwholesome mental states arise in him? Yet the underlying tendencies to facilitation lies latent in him. A young, tender baby lying on his back does not even have the idea of rules. So how could the clinging to rules and vows arise in him? Yet the underlying tendencies do cling to rules and vows lies latent in him. A young, tender baby lying on his back does not even have the idea of sensual pleasures. So how could sensual desires regarding sensual pleasures arise in him? Yet the underlying tendencies to attachment to sensual pleasures lies latent in him. A young, tender baby lying on the back does not even have the idea of beings. So how could ill will towards beings arise in him? Yet the underlying tendencies to ill will lies latent in him. This is cited in the Malunka Sutra, Majjhima Nikaya, Volume 1, 432 to 433. The brightly shining mind. This passage thoroughly describes the basic nature of the mind as brightly shining. Even thoroughly, it is often defiled by defilements which often acts like visitors to a house, and then behaves like they own the place. In the Theravada tradition, the commentator Buddhaghosa refers to this radiant mind as the naturally pure, latent, resting state of mind. In the Mahayana tradition, much more is said of it, and it came to be equated with the Buddha nature, or the embryonic Buddha within beings. When unobscured by mental defilements, which meditation facilitates, the brightly shining basic nature of the mind can be the basis for the attainment of the liberating insight that leads to the experience of nibbida. Otherwise, mental defilements will in time return, and the various kinds of rebirth will follow. Though some in the bright heavenly realms where the mental defilements are weak. Bhikkhu monks, this mind is brightly shining, but it is defiled by defilements which arrive. The uninstructed ordinary person does not understand this as it has come to be. So I say, there is no meditative cultivation of the mind for the uninstructed ordinary person. Bhikkhu monks, this mind brightly shining, but is free from defilements which arrive. The instructed disciple of the Noble One understands that it has come to be. So I say there is a meditative concentration or cultivation of the mind for the instructed disciple of the Noble One. This is cited in the Acharya Sankhata Vagga Sutra 1 and 2, Anguttara Nikaya, Volume 1, 10. We will leave off there on Chapter 8 from the perspective of Theravada tradition on meditation, as we pick up on the next one on the 5 hindrances and other defilements. The 5 hindrances as the main defilements which arrive. A reading from a common Buddhist text, Guidance and Insight from the Buddha, Chief Editor, Maha Dr. Dhamma Kosachan.